This is just a short video to review comparing and ordering decimals. When we compare decimals, it's helpful to think about it as money. It's also really helpful if you line the decimals you're comparing up by place value. And so I'm going to make 3 decimal points because I'm going to be comparing these 3 numbers. And I'm just going to plug in my numbers around the decimal point, and that way it will ensure that all my ones are in the same are lined up, all my tenths and all of my hundredths are lined up. Now 7/10 has 0 hundredths, right? There's no hundredths right there, so we're just going to represent that with 0 so that our eye can see and easily compare. So now we could really think about this as money. We could say, okay, we've got 70 cents, 71 cents, and 75 cents. And if we were going to list these from least to greatest, then we know that 0.7, right, the original decimal, 0.7 would be the lowest, then 0.71 would be the next greatest, and then 0.75 would be the greatest amount. You can also tell that by starting in the hundredths place. There's a 0 in the hundredths place, a 1 in the hundredths place, a 5 in the hundredths place. So we know that 0 would be the lowest because they all have the same number in the tenths place and all in the ones place, or all zeros in the ones place. So if you didn't want to think about it as money and you just wanted to start by looking at the ones place, they all have the same value. Move on to the tenths place. They all have the same value. It's in the hundredths place where we start noticing the differences. So 7/10 would be the lowest amount, 71 hundredths the next greatest amount, and then 75 hundredths would be the greatest. If we look at one that has mixed numbers, 2 and 5/10 and 2 and 5/100, we can use the same strategy. We can write 3 decimal points because we're comparing 3 different numbers, 2 and 5/10, 2 and 5/100, and 25/100. Again, 2 and 5/10 has 0 hundredths, but let's go ahead and represent that 0 hundredths with 0. And now we can start comparing. In the ones place, we can see that 1 is obviously the lowest amount. So again, if we're comparing low or listing it least to greatest, we have 25 hundredths as the lowest number. And then we look in the tenths place, and this one has a 5 in the tenths place. This one has a 0 in the tenths place, so we know the next biggest one would be 2 and 5/100. And then finally, 2 and 5/10. Again, if you think about it like money, we have 25 cents, $2.05, and then finally $2.50.